Hello, everyone. My name is Ajibola Akindikpe. I am the academic liaison at New Media Manitoba. We're glad that you've all taken some time out of your evening to join us here tonight. We are meeting virtually on the ancestral land of Treaty 1 territory, the traditional gathering place of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Ojibwe, Dakota, and Dene people, and the traditional homeland of the Red River Métis people. If you're here for the first time, Pixel Pals MB is a NMM meetup initiative where we focus on creating a safe and welcoming environment for marginalized persons to network with IDM industry professionals, while also learning about game development and other related areas of creative digital arts. Our events and programming aim to remove the barriers that present or discourage marginalized persons from accessing game development opportunities or that hinder their ability to thrive in the game industry. We are run by a volunteer executive committee of local game developers, artists, digital media advocates, and community experts. Together with our allies, we support each other, share experiences, applaud accomplishments, and promote learning activities in a safe environment. Would also like to remind everyone that Pixel Pals Meetup or Pixel Pal Meetups are very much a learning environment, one in which mistakes are likely to be made. We acknowledge that while, of course, everyone here wants to learn, share, and have a good time, it's inevitable that we may trip up from time to time. To err is human, after all. So let's be sure to make space for learning, respectful apologies, and forgiveness as we grow this exciting community group together. We are committed to creating a safe environment for this growing community. And part of that process means having a team to address concerns as they come up. We wanted to take this moment to let everyone know that we have put together an incident report team and are in the process of formalizing our response process. It's important to provide this transparency to the community so that everyone knows what to expect in order to protect anyone involved and to keep our team accountable. When this procedure document is finished, we will be making it available and inviting feedback to ensure that we have the community's trust before it ever has to be used. Thank you for your patience and stay tuned for future updates. Next, I would like to introduce our two speakers tonight, Santo Avero and Mark Cacho, both of whom are dedicated executive members of the Pixel Pals MB Meetup Group. And we are grateful for their time. Please also look out for links in the Pixel Pals Discord channel. If you have any questions, please add them to Vivox link that was provided in the invitation and in Discord. I'll now pass the mic to Santo. Okay.
Cool. Am I good to start? Okay. Um, let's see here. All right. Got all my notes here. Okay, let's get started then. Uh, Thanks everyone for taking the time to tune in today to learn more about some core skills or soft skills as they are usually called. I'm gonna be touching on some really useful but important skills that are part of game development, but also professional careers at large. Primarily time and energy management, which can be used for lots of different things, but the focus will mostly be around game development as well as freelance projects. And just to reintroduce myself again, my name is Santo. I'll be talking a little bit more about myself and my projects and how I use time and energy management and how you can apply it to your own work streams. So, to give a little bit more background about myself, so I'm a game designer. I graduated from game development at George Brown College in Toronto, and I've been making games since about 2014 on an independent basis. In 2016, I joined the board of directors at DMG, which is a nonprofit organization based in Toronto for marginalized creators who want to create, engage with, and change games. And then in 2018, I started Brucaria at Work, which is a collective name for games that I release alongside other artists and friends. Um, some of our past projects include Knowing the Night, and our latest project that we're working on is called Cyber Triple R Revolution, which is a cyberpunk action game that we're hoping to show off sometime this year. Um, and through working on some of these independent projects and in different teams and dynamics, as well as working in the tech industry during the day, I've learned a lot about time and energy management, how to apply it, and also like what to avoid and kind of like some mistakes that I've made in the past that I've learned from to like apply um, those strategies in a better way. Um, so to start off, like time and energy management. So like, what is time and energy management? That's kind of like kind of a wide term that can be applied to a lot of situations, a lot of things. But for the purposes of this talk, time and energy management specifically refers to um, a situation where you have a task and the task has some kind of expected result and how to get from point A to point B and how to manage your time in that in between space, as well as how to set proper boundaries and manage your workload properly in that process. So, some more concrete examples would be that time and energy management is a way to organize tasks to be more efficient and productive, have better work life balance, improve your focus, and break down tasks into simpler and easier steps. So, generally, it's a way so that you can work more efficiently, do um, you can do more tasks in a way that is more manageable, and that way by doing efficient time management you can also kind of tell like when something is too much or when how to get an idea of like how much work can you actually take before you reach that threshold of like I'm too busy or like I'm tired all the time or this is too much work and I can't handle it right now. uh, so an example of like how I personally organize myself is that I try to approach time management like the simplest way possible. Because sometimes time management it can get really complicated really fast depending on your style of time management or what you're doing. But I personally like to just keep it as simple as possible because I also struggle sometimes with time management in the sense that I feel like there's like too much going on and I can't really focus and I need like fewer tasks or to break down things into even more simple basic steps so that I'm able to just take things one step at a time without like thinking too far ahead and then thinking about all the things that I have to do and then kind of like freezing up. So generally, like the first thing that I do when it comes to time management, I just set a goal. Like it has to be like basically some kind of outcome, like what do I actually want to do, or what do I need to accomplish, and that can vary with like, is there a deadline for this goal? Do I need to complete it by a certain day? Is there something that uh, needs to go into it before I can even get to that final stage? So for example, uh, I have here like I need to finish a presentation on time and energy management. That was my goal. So then I broke that down into different tasks that I would need to do first to actually achieve that. So after setting that goal, I started identifying the tasks, and then also add any subtasks that are necessary to finish up a task. So, for example, there's like I spent 1 hour researching time management resources and studies just to see like outside of my own experience for time management, what other methods and strategies have there been recently that for just managing time and resources better. And then within that task, I added like two subtasks, which are basically like provide specific scenarios from my own experience with time management, and then give examples of tools and techniques, which I'll touch on those two towards the end of the presentation. So that's like one task that I identified that's like I need to do this in order to actually create the presentation. And I put down like 1 hour just to give myself like enough time to do that. And as you do more time management with different projects, you'll kind of know what your work speed is and adjust for that. So I like to just give myself more time than I think I will need, just in case anything comes up and I end up needing that extra time, or maybe I um, something else comes up and I just need more time to add to that specific task. And then same thing, I another task that I created was like create a slide presentation. So I created a slide presentation in Google Slides. I gave myself 1 hour just to like give myself, as much time as uh, feel it will take. And then alongside identifying like how long do I think this will take, how many tasks are there involved, I also identify any like blockers, which is basically a blocker is just a way of saying like stuff that's going to prevent me from working on this. So a blocker in this case was that between my day job and some freelance projects, there were other deadlines that I had to wrap up before I could start the presentation. So, like 2 weeks ago, I wrapped up a project, and once that was wrapped up, it's like, okay, I can start now on the presentation. But until that was ongoing, that was technically like a blocker for me. So, I identify the blockers to make sure that I'm just like balancing my projects accordingly so that I don't take too much work on at the same time and I don't let any deadlines slip through the cracks because as if you're especially in the freelance context as you start to take on like more clients or more projects or even in a day job or like a 9 to 5 like as you take on more projects it can get a little bit more difficult to balance different deadlines and just have to make sure that to identify like which deadlines are overlapping with each other and is this release need does this release need to be done first before I can actually work on the next one um, because then you can just like better organize your time and your resources um, with that also the next thing that I'm going to touch on is understanding your limits. So a big part of time management and like energy management it's not just like using the right tools or knowing how to organize your tasks or like calendar, but a really big part of it is understanding your own limits. Like for me, the most important part of that is like understanding my own limits and thresholds and learning like when should I turn down projects? When should I say no? When should I communicate that my workload is too much? Or how can I communicate, to my other teammates or stakeholders or leads that like I have a lot of work and this is what my workload looks like. And this can be a bit more complicated since it can also heavily depend on your working circumstances. since crunch and burnout are persistent issues in like a lot of different industries. It happens in games, it happens in a lot of art based industries, happens in tech, happens in a lot of different places. And since I work in games on a more freelance basis, I'm able to set more strict limits with myself and with my day job that is in the tech industry. I'm happy to be working in a team that values work-life balance a lot, and my lead actually consistently forces me to take vacation when she sees I haven't had a day off in a while. So those kinds of situations are like very ideal to be in a team or work somewhere that really values work-life balance and that will work with you and understand that like we have limits, and if we burn out or if we're constantly crunching, then we're not actually being efficient, because the more you crunch and the more you burn out, you're going to be less and less efficient. You're gonna have a lot more stress. You're gonna be tired all the time, and I know that because that's happened to me in the past as well, where like I'm super burnt out, and doing one task that would usually take me like maybe 30 minutes to do suddenly takes 3 hours because I'm just like so tired and I cannot focus because I've been really overworking myself, or I'm in an environment that has overworked me. um, and this will be different as well depending on the place you work at. For example, like when I just graduated college, I worked in a place that like was a 9 to 5, and I was very strict with myself. And I'm like, okay, once it's 5 o'clock, I'm leaving because I don't want to get into the practice of like doing a lot of overtime. But then uh, that particular place didn't necessarily value that. And a lot of the workers were burnt out because management and leadership didn't understand that people have lives outside of work. So I didn't stay in that place too long because that was a problem. So I ended up leaving that particular job and heading somewhere with a more positive work environment because I just couldn't physically manage having to like do overtime every single day. It's just not a sustainable way to work. And that being said, my my big piece of advice, if it's if you're gonna take one thing away from this presentation, it's that no matter how cool or exciting an opportunity might be, it's never worth sacrificing your health or your well-being to do that job or to do that project. um, it's just never, it's something, once you sacrifice your health, like that is something very serious. And I've talked to so many game developers who luckily now they're in like better places and better work situations, but I've heard so many stories of people who ended up in the hospital because they overworked themselves and burned themselves out. I've heard stories of different developers who their work-life balance was just so out of balance that they weren't seeing their families anymore because they were working all the time. So those things, it's like you can't it's just not worth sacrificing all of that for something that you know all those opportunities, they will uh, come and go, and it's better to prioritize your health over anything else, really. And obviously this responsibility also lies with employers who are responsible for the well-being of their employees and to set people up for success by building a healthy cooperative workplace that values employees over profit, or that values people's health and well-being. And I had, as I mentioned, my first gig out of college was something that um, didn't end up working for me just because I was being asked to stay additional hours for no pay. And at that point, I was like, I was very strict and I said no. And after that, I decided like maybe this is time to just part ways and look for another workplace that um, values my work more, to understand that I can't, my life is not just work, work, work. It's like I have other things outside of work that I enjoy doing, and I'm happy that like after leaving, I did find much better and more stable work afterwards, so that I could continue like growing my career in a stable way without having to uh, sacrifice my own well-being and health, which leads me to my next point, that is about setting boundaries and expectations. So that this can be a tricky thing to do. So knowing how to set boundaries and expectations, whether it's with a teammate, a colleague, or employer, knowing how to properly communicate what you can and can't do will help others know how to distribute work properly. For example, at my day job right now, there's times where I'm like super swamped with projects. And I make sure to communicate that when that does happen to my teammates and to my leads so that they know that I really can't take any additional work, and so that they know that if like maybe if I'm not being responsive or if I slip up or if I forget about something, it's because my plate is very full. So they'll know that like that is what my day looks like. So they'll be more understanding if maybe I missed something or if there was something I didn't catch right away. This also helps highlight to my team and to my leads that like, hey, I'm really busy, which might mean that we could hire more people or find ways to spread work amongst ourselves better so that we can focus more on our task at hand. So communicating that is really important as well, so that um, you also say, hey, like I have so much work and I can't do all of this. But if there were more people helping me out, or if like we spread the work differently, then I could actually maximize my work and be more efficient and focus better. So all of those things work together and like that. And to give more specific examples, one of the ways that I set those boundaries and also communicate my workload is just by being as honest as I can and explaining, like, hey, I'm busy and I would love to work on this, but I'm not going to be able to do a great job on it because of how busy I am. Um, and there's this like different ways of going about it. And, you know, because like, sorry, I can't do that right now. It's like, in an ideal world, that could be enough, but you want to give a little bit more detail to whoever you're working with just so that they understand like that you value this project but it's just not possible right now. So something like, my project scope is very limited right now and I won't have enough time to fully support this. um, and also like I can't take on more projects because my calendar is fully booked, but I'm happy to recommend someone with the right qualifications. So there's been times where I've fully turned down opportunities because I just didn't have the time on my calendar. Other times I've turned down projects, but I passed it on to someone else who I thought would be a good fit for the project. So in the past, you know, there's this project that like I really liked, but I looked at my calendar, I, you know, calculated the time that I had, and I just wouldn't have time to take on this project, but I really genuinely liked it. So I took the time to like just point that a particular person to someone else that I knew who had a very similar skill set, who had a similar uh, things that this particular project was looking for. So then um, I find ways to just pass that opportunity on to someone else who does have the time. So that way, it goes to someone who can who will also like benefit from having that project so as experience or as like a learning opportunity. Let's see here. So story time. Oh yeah, this is the part where I share uh, all of the times that time management didn't go super well for me. Um, but on average, so to give a little bit of background about my freelancing, on average, I tend to take maybe like 3 to 4 freelance projects a year. They tend to be on a short-term basis just because that's what my schedule allows. So short-term basis being that like generally it's like, oh, for like a 1 to 2 day event, or maybe it's presenting a talk, or maybe it's preparing something where the most I have to do is like pre-record something, or maybe someone wants to show off one of my games, so I just have to prepare the game and then send it off. Or it could be like preparing a workshop, things like that, that The time to prepare those materials would take me like a couple of days, maybe a couple of weeks, depending on how detailed it is. But starting in 2022 and towards the end of 2021 as well, I started to take on longer term projects. So, longer term being that like these were commitments that were longer than 1 month. So, like 2 to 3 months, actually, like up to 4 months. So, like a full quarter of the year. Um, and I took on these projects because I was really excited about them. And looking at my calendar, it's like, okay, maybe I do have the time for it. I was like really stretching my time and seeing like, okay, how can I make this work? And I set up all the tasks in like my Google Calendar and um, started to like organize everything. But then I that backfired a little bit just because we're taking on those longer term projects set me back in other projects that I was working on, mostly like projects that were personal projects that I still really wanted to work on. But most importantly, the thing is that I just wasn't enjoying any free time after taking on those long term projects. And I found that I was basically constantly working on stuff, but never really able to take a break. So, like, because I have a day job, so I work like 8 to 4 p.m. And then I will work through the afternoon on longer term projects. And then I would have meetings like on the weekend for those long term projects as well. So I found that like I just basically wasn't having any time off. So once I obviously like realized that and started to feel that like I was just super tired all the time, um, I decided that like after my last long term project wrapped up, it's like, okay, this is gonna be the last long term project I'm gonna take this year and maybe like for the next year or two, just because I kind of like flew too close to the sun in terms of taking on all these projects. So I decided like, okay, r- let's go back to just taking like opportunities with really short like turnaround times and just focusing on those short-term projects, and then maybe in the future seeing if I do have time for those long-term projects as well. um, just because it's like I was having a really great time working on these projects, but I was feeling super tired all the time, and I found that as I felt more and more tired, I couldn't focus on the tasks that I had as well. Like I had all the tasks planned out, and I had my calendar all nice and prepared and color coded and all these things, but that doesn't really help much when you're super tired and you just can't bring yourself to finish the work. So that's why when I mentioned things like tools and things like um, time management tools, like those are great if you're already in a place where you can actually manage your time efficiently. Because if you're in a place that you're burnt out, you're tired, you can't focus, those tools aren't going to be like, they're not going to solve those problems. Those problems are going to have to come, solutions for those problems are going to have to come from somewhere like deeper within yourself, which essentially means that in my case, for example, I had to like really set a boundary with myself about which projects can I take, which ones should I turn down. And even on a similar note to that, the current project that I'm working on, that is a game project for my art collective. um, there's been a couple of friends and a couple of artists that I'm working with that have been sick on and off the past year. Obviously, like COVID is still a thing, and there's other illnesses as well that some of my colleagues have been dealing with. And with that, it's also like you also have to account for people that will need more time. Like, I love working with my friends and I love working with these artists. And I always make sure that, I'm checking in with them regularly. And if I notice that they are taking on too much work, I'll just, uh, DM them, or I'll just ask them like, hey, like, are you okay taking on this work? Like, do you want to maybe just delay it, and like we can always just like put off the release or put off the demo for like a couple more weeks, a couple more months. Because for me, like, I honestly don't care if like something gets delayed, as long as we're able to prioritize people's health, because that's always what comes first, for me personally, as someone who runs a collective and who freelances. I never want to put people in a spot where they have to like burn themselves out for something that can totally be delayed. Um, that being said, something moving on to like more like cohesive practical things. There's a lot of time management tools out there, and as I mentioned, like time management tools are great once you're in a spot where you can manage your time efficiently, or when you're in the proper headspace that like you're ready to get work done. um, Time management tools, I've tried a lot of them in the past. I've done stuff with like Jira in the past. I know that's the more common one in game development as well, Jira. I've tried like note taking, like just writing notes on my calendar on my notebook. I've tried like, you know, a whiteboard by like jotting down notes and seeing like if maybe having a whiteboard in front of my desk will help me remember stuff. I've tried like sticky notes. I've also tried like reminders on my Google Calendar. I've tried calendars in general. Um, but for me, the most important thing is that try out as many time management tools as you can and see what works the best for you, because sometimes depending on let's say if you're an artist or a programmer, or if you're different types of work streams, different tools might work better for you. Some others might not work as well. um, so some of the ones that I personally like recommend is the first one, Asana. Asana is one that I use in my day job, just because in my day job I have a lot of projects to juggle and a lot of deadlines. So like in one month I might have like 4 to 5 different deadlines, and I need to be able to like look at all of them at the same time. And sometimes it just like a calendar sometimes isn't the best way to do it, but Asana has like a timeline tool where you can kind of split up projects in like in progress, to do, complete, and then you can kind of overlay the timelines and see like, okay, this one is like all the way here and it's going to be due soon, so I should prioritize that, versus like there's another project all the way at the end over here that's not going to be due for like 2 months. So, you know, I'll think about that next week or tomorrow. So it's Asana is really great for just like laying out those tasks and like giving you an idea of like how soon is this going to be something that I should think about, and what date should I aim for to like start working on this, and how much time should I give myself to work on that particular task. Um, I personally haven't used this, but I want to, because it's been recommended by me, or it's been recommended to me by a lot of people, is Notion. So Notion is basically a type of like note taking app that you can really like organize your to dos and your tasks in a really like pretty way. And Notion specifically, I've seen it used by like project managers, I've seen it used by artists, by programmers, but Notion usually comes recommended by a lot of artists that I know, just because it's easy to like just structure your to dos in a way that like makes sense for that particular work stream. Again, not one that I regularly use yet, but it's one that I do want to explore. And the last one that I use that is like one that I don't always recommend, just because I find it's most useful if you have like a lot of little to dos and a lot of little tasks, and especially when you work with a programmer. So Trello is one that I use with our current game project, Cyber Triple R Revolution, is one that um, I use with a programmer, because the programmer likes to use Trello in order to like track bugs, track to dos, track any tasks that need to be built out. Um, and that way I can also see like what tasks he has. It's basically like a board of different tasks on it, so like you can kind of like visualize all different work streams if you are working on a team with like a programmer, an artist, a designer, different types of roles. And Trello, like, and also like on a personal basis, um, Trello is one that um, I use like personally for some like personal everyday tasks. So Trello is one that I also use to like, oh, what movies do I want to watch, or like what series do I want to like tackle this month? So like more for like hobby stuff. Trello is also like just really great when you have a lot of different categories of stuff to get through. Um, yeah, I if there's other ones that come to mind are also like Basecamp is one that I've used, not because like I personally use it, but because some other freelance projects that I've worked on, um, the creative director or whoever's in charge of the project just like happened to also use Basecamp. So Basecamp is another one where it's kind of like a hub, and you have like project boards, and you can have like a chat going on with whoever's part of the team, and then you can have like to dos as well and a task list. So it's kind of like a lot of different features rolled into one. Um, and there's probably like a bunch of other task management tools that I'm forgetting about that I just don't use them, so I'm probably not thinking of them at the time. But definitely like feel free to explore like top 10 task management tools for like game development or for tech in general, and there will be a bunch for you to try. Most of them some of them might have like limited plans, but most of them usually have some kind of free option where you can try it out. And depending on what you need, the free plan is usually enough. Like Trello, I use the free plan and it's like good enough to work in like a small team. But yeah, I think that would take me to the end of my presentation. If you didn't want to follow me on Twitter and stuff, I should have probably put my socials at the start, but on Twitter, I'm Tomatioska, and then my art collective Twitter is Brickety at Work. I also just want to check if there's any questions coming in. Okay, so here I have a question that says, what are some ways to create a weekly schedule to make sure to keep a balance? Um, Usually, when it comes for a weekly schedule, and I'll use my day job as a reference just because that's the one that is kind of like the most intense when it comes to a weekly schedule. But generally, I'll like look at my deadlines and see what do I need to do next um, to complete a task and to complete a task towards that deadline. So, for example, in May, or yeah, end of May. Within May, I had maybe like 4 to 5 different deadlines, and they were all kind of converging on the same week. So, like, uh, last week, I had like 3 to 4 deadlines, all for different projects. They all just happened to be the same week, just because of the way that cycles and sprints, which are basically just like what we call rounds of development at my day job, they tend to coincide. So it means that sometimes there will be one week where like everything is due suddenly, or some projects might be delayed a little bit, and then that causes them to be pushed to a week where like all the things are due. So of those tasks, I basically look at them and think like, which one of these would be the worst one to not focus on? It's like which one would be really bad if I like didn't look at it and then did like a last minute some last minute work on it? Like which one will be the most impactful that it's like, okay, I really need to focus on this one, because if I don't, then it's gonna really impact me in like a bad way, because I need to prioritize this and make sure that the work is done in time so that I'm not rushing. So usually I tier my task and I tier my project in like from like one, two, three, four of like highest priority to lowest priority. Lowest priority meaning that like it's not the most urgent thing. If I, maybe delayed by like a day or two, nothing bad is going to happen. It's just more of like a passive thing that needs to be done. So I tier them in order, and then based on that, I will block out my days of like, okay, Monday I'm gonna spend the whole day just on task one, and then Tuesday I'm going to spend the whole day on task two, and then each day I kind of dedicate to a particular project. so that I can make some chunk of progress on it, and then by the end of the week, I can kind of see it and tell like, okay, how much more time do I need to spend on this? And then in between, of course, like the nature of my day job, I also do have a lot of meetings, so I also have to like plan around the different meetings that I have with different teams. I have to make sure that I'm giving myself time to like have lunch and to like have a break in between so that I'm not like constantly working. So generally, I just prioritize my tasks in like what thing is going to come up the fastest and which one is gonna um, cause like the most workload for me and which one will be the most impactful in that way. And then by the end of the week, I usually like have 1 hour at the end of the day where I look at everything that I've done in the week and see how much progress I've made, and then kind of start planning out my next week to say like, okay, when I come in on Monday, I'm gonna, tackle this first, and then I'm gonna move on to all the other things. And the really important thing when it comes to prioritizing and making my weekly schedule and keeping a balance is that everyone else who I'm working with, I let them know that so that they know how I'm prioritizing things. So like sometimes I'll get a DM from someone saying like, hey, like we have this project, like could you work on this? And it might already be a project that I'm working on. And so I tell them, like, yeah, I'm already on that. Right now, I'm working on this other thing, but I'm going to prioritize this project tomorrow or like on Wednesday. And then I will get back to them again and kind of update them on what I've done. So that's also part of the nature of like time and energy management, is to like let your stakeholders and your colleagues know like what progress you made and what you're working on, just so that they know that, you're working on this, or if you're not working on this, this is the other thing that you're working on. And because it's more um, it's just more pressing at the time, like it has a sooner deadline or it has a higher degree of impact, just so that they know that like you are busy and it's something that you just need to prioritize at the time. um, and then the next question, were there any soft skills that didn't come to you naturally that you found yourself really needing in game dev? What were they and how did you develop those skills? Um, I think when we talk about like soft skills that maybe didn't come naturally to me, I think a big part of that was just like the setting boundaries bit of like going through college. Like I did have courses that focused on um, like how to do a job interview or like how to work as a team on a project, but sometimes like I felt that I didn't have enough experience like on like how to set boundaries, because the way that my college course was set up is that they gave us a lot of projects on purpose to see like how we would manage that and how we would balance that, but I didn't really understand like time management and energy management until after I graduated. Um, and it's something that I unfortunately had to learn the hard way as well, right? So, like, I had to make a bunch of mistakes first before I actually understood how to properly manage my time. And it resulted in like a lot of stress. But now, after after several years of experimenting with time management and really getting to know my limits, I'm at a place where like I'm more comfortable saying no, or more I'm better able to like tell when something is too much. And I've also just like met a lot more game developers and professionals in the field who have been in similar situations that have kind of like been able to give me some other wisdom on time management, or like provide some like insights of like how they do time management that I've kind of like learned from and iterated on. um, and just like really having a different outlook than I did when I was in college. Because in college, it's like I was like, okay, I'm gonna do as much work as possible. Like I'm really gonna pour all my time and energy into this. But once I graduated and started to actually work, it's like a little bit. It was a little bit different, because it's like, okay, now I'm applying my skills, but I need to also make sure that um, I'm still practicing those soft skills as well. Um, yeah, I think those were the two. questions. Yeah, thanks everyone.
Let's try this. I feel like this will fix it. Does this fix it? Hello, everybody. Is this working? I think this should work. I'm checking. I don't know if it works.
Yeah, it looks like everybody else is. Oh, one sec.
I think it should be working
Yeah,
now.
it all says they can hear you now.
Hey. Okay, hello. I guess I'll restart that. I'll just stay on this page. I can stay on this page. It's okay. So I'll go back again. I'm sorry. Now everybody can hear me. So who am I? Um, my name is Mark. I work at New Media Manitoba, and I am the studio lab manager and digital coordinator there. In terms of my education, I went to the Toronto Film School to do game design animation, and I also went to the U of W PACE program to do some network security and management. Some other skills and such that I have. Da-da-da. I do a bunch of mentorship as part of my job. I've been leader of many different types of teams all throughout, retail, food, etc. School too. In my capstone, I was one of the producers for a project, which is a role that does require some of those leadership skills. I also do some programming. I do digital art, just a whole grab bag of stuff. So to get started, um, I'll talk about our goals for today. So today, I really want everybody to, understand what it means to lead, but also what it means to fail. And even if you don't want to be a leader, how can you use those traits to your advantage? Because those traits are very important. If you do want to become a leader, but they can help you in case, you don't. They're still very helpful. And for critical thinking and problem solving, it's very much about, how can you improve your ability to problem solve and make decisions. I'm sure we all freeze up from time to time with when it comes to problem solving. So I'll go through some fun little techniques that can hopefully help everybody out. So let's go. My favorite part about this presentation was putting the fun little GIFs here. So I hope everybody also enjoys them. Dun dun dun. All right. So for the first one, isn't failure a bad thing? I'm sure everybody might think this, or to some degree, you think that failing at something means that you should just stop. It's a mentality that many people have. If I'm not going to succeed, why try at all? Or I'm going to fail at it, so might as well just fail hard. But it is not a bad thing. No, no, no. We like failure here, but we don't seek failure as a means to grow. Rather, when we encounter failure, we learn from it, and we learn to be comfortable with that uncomfortable. When these situations come up, they don't feel good. They don't feel good at all. But we have to start learning to be more comfortable with that. And some things to think about, are what led to the result and what was in and out of my own control. And we don't ever blame yourself, and you don't blame others in these situations. We do this, we kind of figure out what was in our own grasp and control, as it means to try and understand everything, all the variables that are in place, and what's influenced that result. Failure can foster growth, and you do need to be accountable for these failures, though, in order to start that process. And it's really not about, what I could have done or what could they have done. Again, we don't want to blame ourselves or blame others. But rather, when you see these situations, you should be thinking about what you can do next time based off of what didn't quite go right, this time. And we can't ever really fully avoid failure. It's kind of inevitable, but we can control how we do process it. In a game setting, this would kind of be called your post-mortem if you're not sure. It'll be like a little meeting with everybody who took part of the game, and you'll talk about what went right, but most importantly, it's what went wrong. Did we hit the milestones? Did we not hit our milestones? Why were some things delayed? Why were some things not great? So why are players not liking this one system? And postmortems are important for pretty much, a lot of game studios, but just in life as well, just reevaluating and thinking about it, because again, we can't fully avoid it, but we can control how we process it. Oh no, I lost my cursor. Dun 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 dun. Dun. And then here's another shaking with the chaos. Yes, we understand it. So next, we're going to talk about the leadership side. And you're probably thinking, me, simple old me, try to be a leader. And then that's probably like your face, like, I don't know about that. But you fake it till you make it. Faking these skills is what I did, because I am very largely an introvert, but I just fake it, and I use the traits to my advantage, because like I mentioned before, they are very important. Many leaders, at least good ones, a lot from what I've seen, they don't make it their goal to be a leader. They kind of just do stuff, and those traits really attract others, and that kind of leads from one thing to another, and displaying these traits and learning to grow with them can open opportunities, open doors, and just help everybody else around you, including yourself. Like I mentioned, like I am very much an introvert. I like to stay inside, meeting new people. I don't seek it out, but like when I have to, or like in some situations, it's fun. I started faking it because when I worked at a movie theater, I kind of had to. It was a situation where I wasn't really getting the most out of it. So if I'm not gonna get the most out of a job, why don't I just do something about it? And that's kind of when, talks about me becoming a lead, and now I help develop others in that sense, and I've helped train a lot of people with that in mind, and I have, I'm glad to say I have grown many people who might not consider them leaders, but they are in my eyes. So some of these traits are, being confident, being an effective communicator, being accountable, responsible, and the big one that will takes many a time to kind of do is being emotionally stable in stressful situations. Even that one, I fake that, like, even to this day. Sometimes some of these things become second nature, but nah, I fake that one too, and it just works out. It works out in the end. And as you can see, being accountable and responsible, that leads from before. We were talking about embracing failure, because if this something is your fault, being accountable and responsible shows others that you are on that first step to, I am willing to learn from this situation. Please tell me what went wrong, or I am going to think about what went wrong. So these are all traits that you will see in great leaders, but you can also see them in yourself, and they're very helpful for everything else. See, it's all about the front. It's all about what you show. Nobody really knows about what hides behind. And eventually some of these might stick around. You might, in some situations, it might be an automatic switch, and it makes it a lot easier. And I personally like building these traits in others. I like seeking out other introverts and making them feel more confident about themselves and their work. If you've talked to me before, or you've walked into a class of mine, I always talk about celebrating your work, because it is something to be celebrated, and it is that one first step to building that confidence, because you should be comfortable hyping yourself up, and then hyping your friends up, and then eventually it just becomes second nature. I remember, I talked about working at a movie theater, and there was one individual I'm very proud of the development that I was able to get out of them. They almost quit multiple times within their first week, crying on the job because it was just too stressful. And by the time, as I worked with them and worked on their skills and building that confidence, by the time I left that movie theater after 5 years, they were one of the loudest people, like really, really, really short girl, but like really loud in the end, not afraid of anything or anyone, none of those crazy customers coming in, like just snap back at you. And it was great to see that change, and it really helped their own confidence, and meeting other people, introducing other people, going out with friends, and it was great to see that development. So as we can see, they weren't necessarily in a leadership position. I'm not sure if they are doing anything with that now, but they gained some of those traits, or at least are just faking it as well as they can in order to, better themselves. And it did. It helped with a lot, really. Boom. Alrighty. So this is a talk. Um, it's a GDC talk from 2017. I do recommend it. It is a very, very good watch. It's from Jesse Shell. It's called You Can Do It. And Jesse talks about, game studio leadership. So very, very specifically, different structures of studios, how to lead them, things to consider. And yeah, the screen cap I have there actually is also something that's very important, because this is a soft skills, day. We're talking about soft skills here. And the chart there shows that somebody who is very competent at their job, they might, be the best of the best. If they're a jerk, the chances of them like getting hired, very low, because nobody likes working with jerks. But if your competency isn't that high, but you're super super likable, and people really really do like you there, the chance of them picking you over that other person, very very much higher. They're willing to teach you. A lot of companies are like this. You don't want to work with somebody who is a jerk. It's not really how we grow as individuals. It's not an effective way to grow. So that's also something to just consider. Boom. So that was embracing failure and becoming a leader. Now we're going to talk about critical thinking and problem solving. Oh, there. I was like, where's the slide? When facing a problem, is this you? Even to this day, this is also sometimes me. I just kind of like stare there, but now I stare there and then like gears start spinning at the same time. So I've learned how to make that process better. But let's try to fix that, so you're not just staring into space, but you're doing something as you do that. Dun-dun-dun. All right, so I have a kind of system in place how I navigate any kind of problem. So this could be a problem that needs to be solved right away. This could be a problem that I might be coming up with in the future. But there are certain things I'm able to I try to predict, and then if I'm in the heat of it, I'm navigating that problem, and then there's the after, which is evaluating the whole situation, and goes back to like learning from failure and all that. And sometimes it's not even learning from failure, because sometimes we do a very good job. So planning with future thinking helps predict what might happen. This is as simple as, oh, I think that this is an issue that might arise. This is something that a lot of programmers are probably used to when you're thinking about what might break, or what might the player do to break this, and you try to prevent that. And that's what that carries over into here. That's how we kind of mold that into any kind of problem solving, is we want to plan for future thinking. And it might be like, oh, you're over planning and overthinking it, but eventually some of this stuff, like it keeps, and you remember it for next time, and it's like second nature. It's like, oh, I'm pretty sure I thought about that in a different situation. I kind of planned in my head how I might do this, or it's not really a surprise. And when things aren't a surprise, you are better equipped and mentally there to try and help fix that problem yourself, and critically think. When a problem arises because you have done that planning, or you have encountered similar ones before, you can navigate it a lot easier because of that stage. And this does take a lot of practice when I'm navigating problems. Sometimes there is stuff that I didn't account for, and things that I didn't plan. But I can use my own knowledge, because hey, I already thought about these other issues. This is just another one. So in the moment, I'm not freaking out that I have no idea what to do. Rather, I'm just like, okay, this is not something that I thought might happen, but I've thought about a whole whack of stuff. So now I just need to sit here and just think critically and start asking myself certain questions. And we will get to some questions in a bit. What kind of questions you can be asking yourself? And then, after that whole situation, when the time is right and you are in the right headspace, which is very important, especially if you're just starting out, doing this kind of stuff, we evaluate and we learn from that situation, and we start building like a Rolodex of solutions in our head that we can just flip through, because many situations and many problems are common, more common than you might think, and they just add to your Rolodex of problem solving, really. So now I'm going to talk about some questions that you can and or you should ask, like substitute questions, because you might be asking some things but they might not be the right things. So you might say, can't somebody else do this? I don't know what I'm doing. And this is you might be sitting there, somebody's asked you to do a task and you're just not sure how to start, you're not sure how to approach it, but they ask you because they know that, or at least they believe that you can do something with that. So you can ask something like, can you help me get started? I know X, Y, and Z, but I'm not sure how to use that in this situation. In a team, this is very, very important, working together, because like we mentioned before, everybody starts building this kind of Rolodex of problems they encountered. And sometimes it's a very simple one. Sometimes even like pipelines are very common and you might not have encountered it before. So have they? And that's something that you could use to your advantage. The classic, I don't know how to do that. I did a talk last year about how to navigate like production issues and such. And something that should always be thought of is everybody has a base knowledge of something. If you're doing this for a job, if you're doing this for school, chances are you know something. It's kind of near impossible that you don't know something about it. And even if you do a quick Google search, you can start looking at those buzzwords, words that are specific to that industry or that problem, and you can use them as a starting point. There have been many times where, in my capstone project in school, this was the example I used in that other talk. I had to make some VFX and I had to make it performant, but I didn't have a programmer with me, so thank goodness I knew how to program. And I had to figure out how to, grab the mesh that was thrown in there and dynamically put some particles and all of this other stuff on it. And I'm sitting there like, nobody taught me how to do any of this. But, I took a breath and I started reading some stuff. It's like, okay, particles. I know what a particle system is. I don't know how they work, but at the time, I know what they are and I know where to find them and how it relates. So then I start there. And then, something like a mesh when it comes to games, right? A mesh is something that, what do I want to do with this mesh? I know what a mesh is. It's like, oh, meshes have points. Meshes have points that I can use. And you start building from that. And instead of the I don't know how to do that, or I have no idea what I'm doing, give it to somebody else. Start with yourself, and it's also that confidence in yourself too. They all relate. It all comes back together. Whoa. And they're all like super helpful. So once you start, trusting in yourself, and you can start asking these right questions, and it makes your whole process a lot easier, and you give yourself much better time with all of this, and you're less harsh on yourself. So yeah, I hope people are like kind of understand that. If not, feel free to ask a question. And oh, this one's just for me. So why does She-Hulk look good? You're lying to yourself. Because Marvel, like, She-Hulk is just a tall lady. I'm using this to rant. This is my time now. She needs muscles. So this is like, yes, please ask the right questions. See, wrong question, right question. This is how we do things here, okay? So I hope I went kind of fast. I just kind of, blather about. But yeah, that was essentially all I have to ask. So if anybody has questions, ask. I mean, present. If anybody has any questions, feel free to ask them, and I will try to answer them to the best of my ability. Or I can just be here and ramble. What is the Discord saying? We good? Okay. My socials are there. Feel free to like follow me on stuff. And yeah, I think now it's actually time to do our giveaway. So we're gonna get ready for that. So give us just a moment. Ta-don, ta-don. Time.
There's questions.
Did it switch this thing? There's questions. Wait, there's people. Okay, I'm gonna answer some of these questions. I'm back to answer your questions. All right, the first one I see is how to encourage friends who are talented but still struggle to believe in themselves and don't apply for opportunities. See, that's that I have a problem with that as well because my friends also tell me I should just be applying for everything. Really in those situations, you really can just like this is kind of why I hype people up because you can once you start doing that eventually they start seeing their own self-worth and they start to realize that like yes like I am somebody who's qualified and yes my work is good and really the only thing that is stopping them is them and you can't change their mind but what you can do is you can make them more comfortable with all of that stuff so that at some point they might just be like hey you know what I am gonna apply because I am great and I am awesome. Another question is would it be great to initiate leadership when people are looking up to someone else? Initiate leadership with people. I'm not sure what that question means. Would it be great to initiate leadership when people are looking up to someone else? I assume this means like you yourself are trying to be a good leader or trying to get into that leadership role, but you're noticing that everybody else is kind of looking at others at another person for said role, and in reality, like you can't stop people from following the leaders that they wish to follow. I'm sure we all know some crazy politician people that get followed by many people and you're probably like why are they following this leader and it's kind of the same situation here. You can't force anybody to like you. In the end you can just do your best. If anything, work with that person. If somebody's looking up to that person, why not work along with them? Why not join that bandwagon and learn something from them as well? uh, it shouldn't really feel like a competition. I don't like when people think things are a competition and they try to compete for people. That's not the vibes I enjoy. How would I know if I am a good leader? You won't know, and that's the that's the best part is you won't really know. If you have people who enjoy talking to you, if you have people who enjoy especially in like a team, a lot of the teams I've been in, uh, I've been in that leadership role, and I've had people, when I was working at the movie theater, who only listened to me. They didn't even listen to the actual theater managers, and it's because I had that respect, I had that leadership, and you'll feel it, and you'll see it through behavior, but it's not really something that you can quantify, if that makes sense. It's really, you'll see the results, and being a good leader, that shouldn't really be the goal. I think everybody strives to be a good leader, but I don't think they intend for that to happen. I think that just kind of happens if you are doing the right things, if you are doing things like you're respecting people's time, if you are a very accountable person, and you own up to a lot of your mistakes, and you're helping others grow, and you're doing a lot of things that make people trust you, and kind of help build that trust and build those relationships without it feeling forced or it feeling like you're trying to be liked. I think that's, yeah, you won't really know. You'll People might just see you as such, and you're like, well, I don't think I am, but people might vouch for you, and that's all you can really hope for. So, are there any more questions? I don't want to miss them again. My brain go fast sometimes, so I be zooming. So if there's any more questions, ask them now. Ba-dum,
Doesn't look like
ba-dum,
there's
ba-dum, ba-dum,
anymore.
ba-dum. I think we're good. Alrighty, we're gonna prepare for the giveaway.
Okie doke. Okay, great. Hi, everybody. My name is Juliette Greenberg. I'm the Membership and Community Manager with New Media Manitoba, and I just want to thank everyone for joining us so far. We are going to be giving away a free copy of Chaos Gate from our amazing members at Complex Games. We actually also have our amazing Adrian Cheater, who's on our executive committee, and they have generously donated a free game for one lucky winner. So Mark is actually, I believe, going to randomize a winner from the folks who signed up for tonight's event. And I don't know if you have something on the screen you want to share, Mark, or oh, okay, great. So we're going to have a winner of a free game in a moment. Fingers crossed for everyone. That looks upside down. Oh no, okay. Holy. I can't see who's in first. Just first. One more lap. Doke. Okay. Okay, great. So we have a winner, Jessica, I believe, right? Congratulations, Jessica. We will make sure to get you that free game for Chaos Gate, and we hope that you'll also maybe share a little feedback. We've heard such amazing things about the game, and we would love to continue hearing great feedback. So that actually wraps up the formal part of our evening. And I just wanted to again thank you so much for coming out tonight. Thank you, Santo, for all of your great insights and experience and sharing all about time and energy and management skills. So important, always something that I think we're working on a daily basis. So thank you for all your insights there. Mark, thank you for your great slides and for helping us try out some great new tech tonight. This was a lot of fun trying out some new stuff. Thanks to Albertine, Alice RL, and Adrian for all you do to help the group as well. We're forever grateful. And I'm actually going to pop in just a quick event survey in the Discord chat if you wouldn't mind shooting us a note, telling us what you like about these events. If there's anything else you'd like to see in the future, we'd love to hear from you. And don't forget, if you have any projects coming up or if you are looking for a new job, we do have an option for you to send in your portfolio or some information about your project. And one of our industry experts would be happy to look over that for you. So I'll just pop that in the Discord link as well. And as usual, you can connect with us on Discord anytime. And yeah, thank you so much for joining us. We'll continue to chat on Discord, but we'll probably shut down the live stream, right, Mark? And stay tuned to learn about our next event through our newsletter. I'll just also pop in the newsletter link in the chat as well. And there we go. Great. Thanks again for your time, everyone. I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. It looks like a bit of a rainy one, so I hope you stay cozy and warm. And we look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks so much, everyone. Be well.